I am about to finish a very big project. The project is basically my basement renovation. This place was built from scratch, and the basement was not it was unfinished. I had it as a TBD project, and finally this winter was the time to take care of that. And the idea originally for that basement was to really have kind of like an apartment or a mother-in-law suite, so completely independent from the rest of the house, that could be rented, or worst comes to worst, the family needs to move there. So in other words, just having like two different type of assets in the same house. So bear with me. The project itself was financed through different strategies, and it's about 520 square feet, and my budget was very limited. Mind you, I live in a metropolitan area, not in a very super fancy state, but in the Midwest, right? It's not super cheap either, but I had a very, very tight budget for this, and I will be able, actually, because I haven't just yet, but I will be able to finish this entire project, which is 520 square feet, one bedroom apartment, with $50,000. And bear that number in mind, because that's what unlocked the full entire chain of thought that comes after this. So with $50,000 in other parts of the world, you are definitely able to buy something along the same lines in perhaps a more crowded or more premium location than you can afford, or that I could afford here in the United States. However, the return that you have on that is something that is way much more slower, or lower and slower, than what I expect after doing research. This is not magical thinking. My return will be with this investment. Obviously, it's a very unfair kind of comparison, because the house here was already built, so the foundation was built. It's not that I'm kind of like coming out from the thin air and then just like building something for $50K. Although I would be curious to see how it works with others ADU in other places of the US. Anyways, my thought process was that in this particular country, you are able to access to credit, which is very difficult in other places in the world. And I would say I have friends living in Europe that are either Europeans or they live in Europe. The full thing with credit is very difficult to access to the normal, kind of like middle class worker. Is very, very difficult to access. Not to mention that in South America or Mexico is also very, very difficult to access to credit. So already this country has an advantage, and I'm not sure what's the story of credit, where this whole thing about credit came to be. I'm not sure if this is something that has been always like this or has been going on for the last 30, 40 years. But the truth is that if you are, responsible with it, then you have an advantage over your financial life, or you have more opportunities. Anyways, I was thinking about credit and how the differences between credit here in this, Anglo-Saxon culture, high trust society that is kind of like how it's defined versus other places. And then I am thinking, like, obviously this happens here because of that quality of trusting. If it was a society like the Latin ones, where we've shared a lot of values, but it's not a high trusting society, then this opportunity wouldn't be available. And then got me to think, like, okay, I know that things are not doing very well in this country right now economically. Obviously, one thing are the headlines, and then another thing is people's pockets and people's wallets. And I know, people are struggling, especially now with the coming of AI, and there's going to be change here. But still, I think that there is this even bigger quality that kind of surpasses everything else when it comes to the Anglo-Saxon culture, and that is the power of reinvention. And it's not that this country in particular, and I'm sure there are other Western countries that are also Anglo or Anglo cultured, say for instance Australia, New Zealand. I know that they had big crises, same here, big crisis, and nonetheless they were able to get through it and come even stronger, or even provide again for their people in a way that that kind of like middle section of society keeps being honored. I know this is endangered, and there's a lot of that, but still I think that it has, these type of cultures have that very distinctive quality of being hit with a crisis, and even with that crisis still be trusting, and with that trust becomes something different, comes that power of reinvention that I concluded. I don't know. Yeah, that's what I was thinking today, after having the last contractor in this project and signing the last check. But anyways, already 9 minutes. Thank you for being here. My name is Magdalene. I do these videos so I can learn how to articulate better and share my ideas, find my tribe out there. If you made it all the way to here, thank you. I appreciate your time and your attention, and wishing you a very, very good summer. Thanks. Bye-bye.